and welcome to this episode of Up Close and Personal Season 2 at InvokED Studio.
You have to say my name is Ariel.
Like here and then there. My name is Ariel.
And my name is Alex.
From Bach Bros Studios.
So with that, I keep forgetting your name.
We are impacting humans. So we need to ask the people who are getting impacted on what impact means to them, and then think about a framework to measure.
Today, we are going to meet with Ms. Kavita Tatwadi, who is the current CEO of AVPN India Foundation.
So with that, let us welcome Ms. Tatwadi.
Thank you for having me.
So we know that you work mainly on impact measurements, which involves leadership. So our first question for you is, how would you define leadership?
For me, leadership is courage and conviction. A person who is a leader has to be very brave, and they have to believe that even despite of all the hurdles that come in their way, they have to keep going on. So that's all about being courageous. And they have to have the conviction that they believe in the cause for which they're fighting. So that's leadership for me.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge when you think about impact measurement right now?
That's a very good question. When people think about impact measurement, they mostly think about very, very standardized frameworks and indicators, etc. Because, of course, measurement has to be really tangible. But when we are thinking about the impact measurement of social structures or social issues, we're dealing with humans there, right? Humans are getting impacted. And therefore, one has to think very creatively about what indicators would look like when you're thinking about measuring the impact on humans. And we need to have a participatory approach to it, which is currently not happening because we are impacting humans. So we need to ask the people who are getting impacted on what impact means to them, and then think about a framework to measure. And currently, I think a lot of people don't work this way in measurement.
How do you use numbers and stories together to show a project's impact?
For me, I think numbers and stories together can actually speak to two things. Numbers are quite scientific, so you can see tangible impact. Somebody says, oh, what's the number? If you're saying impact has happened, that's where you use quantitative measurements. But how has the number actually happened to a human? What does that mean for the person who's getting impacted? That actually comes out through a story. And a lot of people don't understand numbers. So that's where stories actually inspire you to understand how people are getting impacted. The other thing is that stories are very important to bring the soft side of the measurement. Numbers can be very dry. So you might say, this is a particular number, say 100. But what does it actually mean to a human being? That's where the stories are very important. And they make the whole soft and the hard part of it, which is quantitative and qualitative together, they bring out the real aspect of impact.
What do you think is the most interesting project you've measured through the impact for?
I think one of the most interesting projects where we measured the impact was on the impact of unrestricted grants. A lot of philanthropists, they give out very, very programmatic grants where they list out the activities and then ask the implementing organizations to spend the money according to the activities. But when you give out unrestricted grants, the implementing organizations on the ground can actually utilize the money in a way which is very, very appropriate for the communities, because they're responding to challenges happening on the communities. And therefore, there was no precedent on how to measure such an impact. And we had to think very creatively on how do you measure the impact of unrestricted grants when they're not being programmatically used. And in this, we utilized quantitative as well as qualitative processes and measurement indicators. And we found that this was the most challenging thing to ever do, because while impact measurement is something which makes you understand the end impact of a particular program, in this case, we were not actually looking at a program. So there was nothing like an end result we were looking at, but we were looking at process improvements as well as resilience building of the organization. So bringing a framework together to measure such a complex thing was quite challenging.
How do you make sure all the information you're getting is fair and accurate?
That's a very good question. When we are thinking about measuring something, accuracy is very important, and at the same time, fairness, because data can always be fudged, right? So we use a lot of technology to ensure that the data that we're getting is very accurate. And at the same time, we work very closely with the grantee organizations, and it's almost like a trust-based relationship. So when they report to us the numbers, we actually trust them that they'll be reporting it correctly.
How do we use what you are good at to help our schools and towns?
I think impact measurement can actually be used very creatively for schools. As I mentioned, I firmly believe that impact measurement should also be participatory. We could actually ask students on what would a success look like for any kind of programs that they're undergoing. One thing is that most of the people who have programs know what the outcomes are, and therefore they have very, very standardized measuring formats. But since we're dealing with students in the school, we could actually ask students to tell us what could success look like to them, and then incorporate all of those things in the program and measure it.
So you believe that when it comes to impact measurement, that everyone should work together?
Absolutely. When you are looking at a solution for a social challenge, the social challenges are very complex, right? They are multidimensional. So there can never be a single pathway to solving a social challenge. And similarly, there can never be a single way you can measure the impact of the work that you're doing. Therefore, everything has to be quite participatory. So whichever stakeholder is a part of your program, they should be telling you what success looks like to them. And therefore, they should tell you, you should measure these things for us to understand whether we were successful or not.
Thank you so much, and we loved having this exciting conversation with you.
Thank you again for having me.
Well, that's it for this episode of Up Close and Personal Season 2. Thank you for watching this video and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Bye!